So everyone here should know about Squid Game because it's the biggest thing right now. I haven't seen anyone rank anything except tier list, so here's the ranking of the Squid Game episodes, characters, and games all in one video. And before we start, I would just like to remind everyone that this is my opinion. Oh, and if it wasn't obvious...
You're spoiling everything!
Number 9. A Fair World. To be honest, I don't remember much of this. I like the tug-of-war continuation from the previous episode and that conversation with Gihan and Dokso, and that's basically it. So because this is the most forgettable episode, I'm going to have to rank it last. 6 out of 10. Number 8. One Lucky Day. I watched all of Squid Game in one sitting and I was burnt out by the end of that 9 hours, but the finale was anticlimactic. It was a snooze fest after Jihan left the games, and don't even get me started on that plot twist. Yeah, I hate it because it undermines one of the best scenes in the series, but also because how pointless it was. Take it out and what changes? Nothing. That's a bad plot twist. 6 out of 10. Number 7. The Man with the Umbrella. So we are back in the Squid Games. The alliances, Sang-woo's selfishness, an iconic game that started a trend. This episode set up a lot of upcoming ones. The game itself wasn't really engaging because it doesn't have that same we're gonna die feel. I do have to admit that Jihan licking the candy was funny, but as someone who jumped on the trend, if the candy is thin enough to lick, then it's thin enough to break.
It's actually pretty good.
The game holds this episode back, but it's still good. 7 out of 10. Number 6. Frontman. Clocking in at 31 minutes, this is the shortest episode, so I have no clue why they didn't just combine this with the finale. The plot twist in this one was actually good because it recontextualizes previous scenes. And don't get me started on that gut punch of an ending. Even though this is a bit too short for my taste, I still enjoyed it more than the other 3. 8 out of 10. We're at the halfway point of the episode rankings and I want to rank the major characters, so why not? Again, this is my opinion. In last place, and I'm being petty for even putting him on this list, is the pastor dude. His entire personality is religion and I hate characters like him. I mean, they didn't even bother to give him any other lines. In number 12 is the frontman. Sure, he had this intimidating presence, but we don't really know anything about him. Some people might say that's what makes him interesting, but he's lacking the depth I yearn for. In 11th place is going to be Minyo, or the crazy girl. Here is another character we know nothing about other than she is crazy. But what puts her ahead is that she's entertaining. And she's a legend for offing Doksu.
Oh no!
In 10th place is Byung-ji, the doctor, the searcher, whatever. I don't know about anyone else, but I was invested in his black market side story. And it was nice to see someone cheating in this rigged game. In 9th place is Doksu, or the gangster. It was fun seeing an antagonist amongst the players and he has more depth than the previous two. It was also nice to see everybody slowly turn on him. In 8th place is this girl. We don't know much about this girl, but I'm placing her above the others because of reasons. In 7th place would have to be Jun-ho, or the detective. His plotline was a bit all over the place. How he got in and him getting away with pretending to be a soldier for so long was pretty unbelievable. And I don't know how he just kills soldiers without even knowing anything. But he's high because... reasons. In 6th place is Il-nam, or the old man. He would be much higher on this list if the last episode didn't exist because it just feels like we weren't really with the real him. But I liked him before the finale, so I'll give him that. In 5th place is Ali Abdul, or actually who am I kidding, his name was the easiest to remember. So his entire personality is that he's nice, and it works. It's just refreshing to see someone who helps others in stories like these. Everyone was going insane, so it was a good thing he kept his marbles. Figuratively, I mean, because he couldn't do that literally. In 4th place is Ji-hun, our protagonist. He was such a well-written MC because there was a balance of him being a submissive character and a reactionary one, and I was rooting for him, so that's something. In 3rd place is Sae Byuk, or the North Korean girl. Firstly, she's high because of reasons, but her character going from an untrusting loner to learning how to open herself up to others is just beautifully crafted. And even though I didn't want her to die, the way she went out was just such a perfect and tragic end to a hottie, a well-written character like her. In 2nd place, and the runner-up for my favorite Squid Game character is... the Windowmaker. I know, how can someone with 3 minutes of screen time be this high? Well, it's simple, because this motherfucker was a certified badass. This man had the ability to save everyone in the 5th game, but he let them die to lower his competition, and he only revealed what he could do when he had to go first. 3 minutes and this chat is already better written than any of the characters in Tokyo Revengers, except Naoto. Justice for the Windowmaker. In first place, and my favorite character is Sang-woo.
What the fuck is this shit? Like, what the fuck am I watching?
I know, just shut the fuck up. I'm gonna start off with the argument that most Sang-woo fans start with, which is that he's the most realistically written character. I also love how the duality and hypocrisy flow in him. He's the first person to suggest getting out and he votes to stay. He says to work together but he tries to get everyone killed. Deok-soo was the false antagonist because the real one was brewing in Sang-woo all along. He's just so perfectly written, which makes him my favorite. So that concludes the character rankings. Back to the episodes. Number 5. VIPs. Let's start off with what everyone hates about this episode, which are the titular VIPs. Especially this guy. The way they were written was just terrible, even if it was purposeful. Now let's talk about the game. Glass stepping stones were just so tense and unique. Sure, it was just a plot device to kill off everyone but the big 3. Like, realistically, at least 5 should have survived. But it was so engaging. And there was a simple way that everyone could have lived, but they were just so far gone, and they didn't even think of working together. This was a perfect penultimate episode before the final act. 8 out of 10. Number 4. Hell. Most people hate this episode because we are away from the games, but that is precisely why I love it. The show turns into a realistic drama where we get a chance to see what the characters have to go through and what pushed them to consider playing the game in the first place. The ending was just so beautifully directed and it was a perfect calm before a chaotic and bloody storm. 9 out of 10. Number 3. Red light, green light. This was a perfect way to start the series. We get enough of Ji-hun to root for him, but also not enough to make it wonder if he'll die at the end. And don't get me started on that red light green light game Sync to Fly Me to the Moon, which is the perfect crescendo to end this amazing pilot. 9 out of 10. Number 2. Ganbu. Yeah, I know, why isn't this number 1? Just shut the fuck up. Ganbu was full of emotion and almost made me tear up. Nothing has come close to Assassination Classroom though. The choice to have the game be 30 minutes long and also have the same amount of time pass by to slowly build up the inevitable was just such a genius move. We see the end of 3 tragic characters, and this would have been number 1 if something later on didn't contradict it. But this is still a perfect episode that I can't hate. 10 out of 10. Before we get to my favorite episode, let's rank the games real quick because I want to. In last place would have to be Marbles. Yeah, this game was emotional, but as a game, it wasn't really fun to watch. In 5th place would be Break the Honeycomb. This game suffers from the same problems that Marbles has, but this game is way more iconic. In 4th place is Squid Game. Even though it was obvious who was gonna win, it was still engaging. I still don't understand the rules though. In 3rd place would have to be Red Light, Green Light. This game has no story because it's all spectacle, but the montages are just so beautiful to watch as characters ran to the tune of Fly Me to the Moon. The runner-up would be Glass Stepping Stones. The big 3 take a step back as we watch the other contestants take center stage. It was so well written that I didn't even notice that the big 3 were at the back. And I have a way to beat this. They mentioned at the beginning that a panel can hold up to 2 people. So if they just held hands and had one person lean over and break the glass, then they could test which is the right panel without dying. But their trust in each other is just non-existent at this point, and they are too far gone to even consider teamwork, which is the reason why everything played out like it did. And this game also features the most badass character. My personal winner would have to be Tug of War. I know that this is the most unfair game because they were placed in a team, but that's why I love this. If you know me personally, then you know that I'm a sucker for people working together and using strategy, and this game was all of that. The main characters were the weakest team, which means that they couldn't really rely on brute strength. The editing and structure to their game was just oozing with perfection, and the old man's monologue accompanying it was just hypnotic. This game was also the first one where people had to die, which raises the stakes even more. And the way our team won is just something I would actually do in a tug of war game. This was just perfection. Back to the episodes. Number 1. Stick to the team. From what you just heard, I'm a sucker for teamwork in media, and like the title of this episode, that's why it's my number 1. All hell breaks loose as the contestants start killing each other and alliances start to form. The main characters slowly start to come together as trust and relationships build. I could still smell the bathroom scene through my screen, and it smells worse than Jake Gyllenhaal. As previously said, my favorite game is Tug of War, and just the dynamic with the characters is enough to make this my favorite. 10 out of 10.
4 big guys, and they bust on my eyes. They eat my ass just like apple pie. If they keep fucking me like this, I might just die. They pipe my booty till I cry. He licked my dick and the cum start dripping. I took a bite of his ass, it tastes like lemon pepper chicken. He throw me up in the air, my booty flipping. He dug in his balls in my booty like he's Scottie Pippen. Met the nigga last night, then I rode his dick like a bike. He's so thick, he looks like a dyke, but that's okay, cause I think his name Mike.